Good evening, lacrosse community. I hope everyone's having a terrific day. I'm so excited for our speaker this evening. Kyle Mox is one of my good friends from the Ahwatukee Lacrosse program. He's the current president as well as a dean of Barrett the Honors College for ASU. It's my alma mater, so I couldn't be more excited for this conversation. For all of you that are new to the Lacrosse Leadership Institute, my name is Ryan Berns, and the big point of this is lacrosse has played such a huge impact in so many of our lives. We want to share our stories. We want to empower the youth. We want to empower anyone that has a love for the game so that they can be successful. They can live the lives that they're going to live. Today we're going to learn about Kyle and his story and start by asking Kyle, how did you find lacrosse? How did you get involved, and how did that love cultivate for yourself?
Great. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. Any opportunity to talk about lacrosse or think about lacrosse or just do anything lacrosse is welcome, particularly at this point. How did I find lacrosse? I would say it found me. I grew up in Michigan, in a little town in Michigan, actually, around Lansing, not exactly a hotbed for lacrosse, but one of my best friend's fathers had grown up in Syracuse, spent his summers playing with the Iroquois Nation just for fun, and had gone to Michigan State University in the 60s and was one of the founding members of their lacrosse team. And so when his son got old enough, he decided that he wanted to try to start a program in the Lansing area. And so we were the first high school lacrosse program in mid-Michigan. At that point, the lacrosse was only being played in the prep schools around Detroit, one or two of the programs in Grand Rapids. So I didn't start playing lacrosse until my junior year of high school, and had come over from football and basketball and track, which turned out to be pretty good preparation for lacrosse because I could hit, and the offense and defense are the same as basketball. And I ran the 400, so I was automatically a midi. And then by senior year, I just hit the wall, 2-3 hours at a time sometimes. It felt right. And everyone knows you have that experience, you pick up the stick and this is the sport. It just clicked with me. And senior year, I was first team all-state midfielder and went on to play club lacrosse at Western Michigan University for a couple years, and got involved in leadership for that program for a little bit as well. And then had to graduate and work and all that kind of stuff. So was really happy to end up here and find such a thriving lacrosse community where I could repeat the process with my own son.
I absolutely love hearing that story, and I'm glad you were able to share that experience with Jackson as well. It's been so much fun seeing him on the field. Do you have a pinnacle lacrosse moment in your life right now?
Wow. A couple of memories stand out. I would like to say it's when we won the championship, but we were not good. We were not a good team. I remember two memories as a player stand out. One was my senior year, we did qualify for playoffs. And I just remember pulling in to the state playoffs at the Cranbrook Academy. And anyone from Michigan or anyone in the Midwestern lacrosse scene knows Cranbrook. And there's statuary around in the gardens, and it's this really expensive private school and one of the most expensive zip codes in the country. And I never felt more out of place in my life rolling up in my 1985 Chevy Celebrity all the way 2 hours west in Lansing. And I'd like to say we fought a good fight and we won the game, but we didn't. But we were there, right? And for a bunch of guys that hadn't known the game 2 years beforehand, it felt like a big victory. And a couple years down the road when playing in college, right around the time I graduated high school, they canceled Michigan State University's varsity program. And so for Title IX parity in the scholarships and funding, it was a huge hit to the community there because Michigan State had been a pretty strong program. They were there well before University of Michigan got established. And so a lot of the players for that team left, went back east. A lot of them stayed on and played club lacrosse. And so we did meet up with the Michigan State team and beat them by a good 5 goals. And so that was a real boost to think, okay, we're not just goofing around here. We're a lacrosse team, right? Not just a bunch of guys riding around in a van looking for a party after the game, So, but I think most of my bigger points have really been watching the young guys learn it and pick it up. And my favorite thing is just 15, 20 minutes into a clinic when you see a 6, 7-year-old like kid just like grinning ear to ear and like, like he caught the bug, he's got it, right? When they're upset, when you say, all right, practice is over, and so it's more of a montage of like sort of little events, I think, rather than one or two big ones.
And the same thing comes up to me when I think of my favorite moment. It's one of the clinics, the Trilax clinics that you or Bill Lynch put on. And just one of those little guys, the stick's bigger than his head, just bigger than his entire body. And it's just the hugest grin you've ever seen in your life. And he's laughing hysterically.
Yep.
And it's funny that that's a similar experience that you share. So thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. You never have more fun than an 8U practice, right? And I've never seen anybody having more fun doing anything than a bunch of 8-year-old boys running around with sticks. And
I think that's an interesting transition to the class that you teach at ASU. Can you, I forget the name, can you tell us what the name of the class is and a little bit more? Well,
yeah. So over the past year, I've been teaching a new course at Barrett, which is the Honors College at Arizona State University. And just for context, for those people not terribly familiar, ASU is the biggest university in the country right now, over 94,000 students, undergraduate students. But Barrett is a kind of a small corner of that world, and we have undergraduate enrollment about 7,000 students in Barrett. And so it has that kind of small liberal arts college feel to it, and it's within a major world research university, which is kind of the best of both worlds. Short time ago, we got some additional funding from one of our benefactors who wanted to establish a new center for personal development, teaching some of the soft skills or the things that we don't learn in the biochemistry classroom or the business classroom, life skills kind of stuff. And so I stepped up to teach a class on happiness, success, purpose, and meaning. Of course, those who can't teach, right? So I was a good fit for that. But the idea being that we wanted to investigate, what are the factors that go into being happy, and more importantly, to finding success in life and finding meaning in life and finding our purpose in life. It seemed easy enough at the start, but I quickly realized that there's practically an infinite amount of source material on this. We've been working on this problem for thousands of years, and it explains most of philosophy and art and everything. So wasn't really sure where to start. And so I thought we'd just unpack the psychology of it, and figure out what is it that makes us happy? What happens in our brains when we're happy? And more importantly, looking at examples of people that have had meaningful lives and how has that led to greater sense of purpose in their lives, but better health, and how did they get there? And what can we do in the short term to point us in that direction? So pretty ambitious for a 1-credit class. The first iteration, the feedback was, wow, that was a lot of work and reading for a 1-credit class. And so we've kind of pared it down over time, but the students really enjoy it, and they really step up to the challenge. They expect maybe that we'll do a bunch of breathing exercises or something, but no, it's a serious class, and we do a lot of reading and discussion and work, and but nobody seems to mind too much.
And pairing this to where my thought was going with the 8-year-olds having a great time, being extremely happy and content, does sports play a big factor in people having meaningful lives and happy lives, or do you attest lacrosse to your life moving forward, having purpose, meaning, and happiness?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, so first off, here's what we know about happiness, that psychologically, we do a very bad job of predicting the future. We do better than every other animal, since no other animal can predict, what's going to happen in the future, but we can. We're just not that good at it. And so we oftentimes think that the things that are going to make us really happy don't make us as happy as we think they will. And the happiness doesn't last as long as we think it's going to last, right? Conversely, the things that we think are going to make us sad don't make us as sad as we worry that they will. And the sadness doesn't last as long. And if it did, we'd be in a terrible state of affairs all the time, because we'd get happy and we'd just stay that way, and we'd never try to do anything else in life. And the same thing goes the other way. So what in my class, what we try to do is pivot to thinking about meaning. And there are several pillars to living a meaningful life. One of those is a sense of belonging, right? And so obviously, one of the things that I noticed right away with lacrosse is soon, my coach, Bill Praler, the guy that got me into this sport from day one, drove home the message about, the brotherhood of lacrosse, the lacrosse family, the lacrosse community, that wherever you go, you see somebody with a stick, you can walk up to them, you can talk to them. And it's true, right? You meet anybody anywhere that has a lacrosse shirt on or a hat or is carrying a stick or anything, if you walk up to them, you're going to have a friendly conversation. They're never going to look at you and say, and that doesn't happen with basketball. That doesn't happen with football, right? I love both of those sports, but it just isn't the same community. So immediately, belonging, every human being needs that. And so it's a community that we can be a part of, no questions asked, that says, we're here, we support you, we want you to succeed. All that we ask is that, you do the same. And that's really important. And that's why you see, I think, lifelong participation in lacrosse, because it has that strong sense of community to it. And one of the other big pillars is purpose. And what's also great about lacrosse is that, it gives people a purpose, whether you're the young player starting out, or you're the D1 prospect, or you're, the third string, Fogo on a Division III college team. You've still got a purpose, and there's a role for every player. It's not always the tallest, it's not always the fastest. Anyone, and I tell people all the time, anyone who's willing to run and willing to learn and willing to practice can succeed at lacrosse. It's not like basketball where you got to be 6'4", or football where you've got to be 300 pounds. Any body type can do this. What you need is a brain, right? And that's great. I think that keeps people in the sport for a long time, and therefore, almost anyone who plays the sport seriously is a great prospect to be a coach or an administrator or a helper later on, because you got to learn the sport, right? And it's given me a great sense of purpose too. And I've had the honor of coaching with guys in their 60s and 70s who still get that same amount of joy seeing a 7-year-old kid pick up a stick for the first time, right? And so those two things together, I think, create a meaningful experience around the sport, which, is that different than a lot of other hobbies or interests or sports? I don't know, but it certainly is true from my experience in lacrosse.
And certainly for myself as well, it's something that we can always draw to and have that purpose. Even when we're no longer playing, we can find connection coaching. And it sounds like, Kyle, that you've been coaching for some time, and you also took on a leadership role within your collegiate team. Was that the first time you really took on a leadership position, or how has leadership developed for you inside and outside of lacrosse to where you sit and stand right now?
Sure. In high school, I went to a very small school. I didn't play lacrosse for my school. I played for a club at another bigger school. I graduated with 50 people in my high school class, and like 4 of us went and played lacrosse. So that was almost 10% of my high school class. So you had to be a leader, right? And I kind of come from a close-knit community, very small town, 1,500 people. And I realize now at this point in my life that shaped a lot of who I am. That wherever I go, and I've been around this country, we've lived in Texas and Illinois and Louisiana, obviously in Michigan, now here in Arizona. Everywhere we go, there's that desire to try to recreate that sense of a small community where everybody's got to pitch in. And I think that's what's been great about the Ahwatukee program, is it gives a lot of people an extra sense of home or community. But that's a long way of saying, I'm used to accepting leadership positions, not because I like being a leader, but just because I'm used to being in a community where people step up and do what they're good at doing to help the bigger cause. I just happen to like to get things done and write things and make decisions, right? So, to take on the president position at Ahwatukee, it was something I'd thought about, because I know Pete Opart, who had done a wonderful job in building off of the work of Mike Dale and other people further down up the road. I was in a national leadership position. I was president of my professional organization, and I had 1 more year left. And I'm like, I don't know. But my HR manager, my wife, said, I think you should do it, right? How are you going to feel if somebody else doesn't and doesn't do a good job? So, my first year as president, I was running the program and running my office at ASU and teaching and serving as president of a national organization. And so it was a lot. But the work on lacrosse never seemed like work. In fact, it was an escape from everything else. And so if I won the Powerball tomorrow, I would still be president of Ahwatukee Lacrosse, and I would build us a really nice box facility, more than likely. But I think that's great because, you know, we often think of leadership as being like the one person, but there's so many different roles and so many different opportunities to take leadership. And to me, leadership is all about being someone who can identify a problem to be solved, identifying solutions, right? Resources to put in play that we can use to solve that. And then the third part, which is where most people don't do so well, is motivating people to take those resources and put them into action to solve that problem. It's not being a manager, right? It's not being somebody who just does all the work. It's not being somebody who says, "Oh, here, just let me do it," right? It's about, you know, having that vision and getting people to work together towards a goal, which is hard. It's really hard to do. And obviously, you know, being on a lacrosse team or any sports team, but I think lacrosse in particular, it's very difficult to be a Michael Jordan on a lacrosse team, right? You're not going to win the game by yourself. You know, it really teaches a lot of collaborative skills, right? Everyone has a chance to excel in their own role.
I think that's a spot on conversation with everyone working together. That leadership style of collaboration, I continue to hear, in my eyes, a servant leader. Someone who has a community as a whole, there's a goal that they've identified, and they motivate and inspire those around them, empower them to be successful and go towards that. So it's a communal effort, because when you work in a community, you get to accomplish so much more than just if it was one person doing everything on their own.
Yep, absolutely.
And that's massive. One thing, just because I'm looking at the clock right now, and I do want to leverage you, Kyle, and where you sit with Barrett, and more particularly, where you sit with the Fulbright community and how you help the students accomplish that opportunity. I don't think a whole lot of people are familiar with what the Fulbright Foundation is, first and foremost. So can you share what that is, please?
Yeah, I mean, on the topic of leadership, you know, I spent a lot of time working with student leaders and encouraging students towards leadership and helping them articulate their leadership, because my main role at ASU is to help students and alumni apply for major awards, fellowships and scholarships and things like that, and not the sort that, you know, people, we all hope our kids get when they go to college, right? These are the ones that, you know, we're going to send them to Zimbabwe to teach English for a year, you know, sort of like Peace Corps type things. So we work with a wide range of fellowships, but our biggest program is the Fulbright U.S. Student Program, which is a program of the Department of State. And it's been around since World War II. And it was funded initially as a way to promote the exchange of knowledge across cultural boundaries. First two countries in the program were Germany and Japan, 1946, right? We're sending students and scholars to people that we were just fighting a year or two before. So it's a great program to work with. And obviously we need leadership as a strong quality among students who are going to apply for this award, because you're going off on your own with very little guidance or supervision. And so you need that confidence, you need that vision, you need the self-awareness and to be able to succeed in that kind of environment. And ideally, you know, these young people are going to be great representatives of the U.S. in over 150 countries around the world. And so I spend most of my time working with these younger people to figure out how to explain to somebody else in what way are they a leader? What have been the experiences in their life that have created these skills and this ability that they have? And not a lot of people spend time doing that. You know, we just do it. But trying to explain it to somebody else as to why you should get, you know, an $80,000 scholarship to go, you know, study fish populations in Cambodia, right? It's a challenge, and so it's been a lot of fun for me.
And I know that the scholarship is for students that they're strong leaders. Sounds like they want to make a cultural impact or just start to diversify their experiences and learn to be able to share empathy with different cultures. Is that really what college as a whole is looking for kids to enter college? Is it specifically for the Fulbright community?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a very high altitude version of it, you know, winning something like Fulbright, but absolutely. I mean, as I've been in higher education for 20 years now. It seems weird to be an old enough person to say I've been doing anything for 20 years, but I've been working in higher ed for 20 years as a faculty member and administrator and advisor and other things. But by and large, anyone that works at a university, what we hope is that we get a student who has an open mind and is willing to learn and willing to see how their knowledge, skills, and abilities can be put into the pool to make our community better. That's all we're asking, and if a kid comes in and they want to get a business degree and they want a good paying job and that's kind of the end of the story, fine. We'll help you. That's great. Having economic stability is important. It's important in life, but ideally we want you to come and listen and expose yourself to a wide range of people and ideas and decide for yourself, where do I fit in, where do I belong, and what can I do to help?
Yeah, I think that's an unbelievable opportunity that college affords so many of the youth. Same thing for me. Sounds like you had the similar experience. You get to go to a school, get an education, so you do have that economic backdrop, but then you join organizations like lacrosse, and you're able to go ahead and be a part of a community and then leverage that as your purpose moving forward as well. I know that we've spent some time sharing with the Ahwatukee community some of the aspects that the scholarship committees look for in students. You do most of your time talking with students to basically write their story of how they are leaders. Can you share some of the insights that you've gleaned with us before?
Yeah. If I were, I'm going to phrase this more in the direction of maybe a graduating senior or a younger person that's thinking about college admissions. It's kind of a different context, right? I'm on the committee that helps write the admissions questions for Barrett. I'm on the committee that reads admissions for Barrett, and I've been reading scholarship admissions applications for years as well. I've done a lot of this. And by and large, I think most people fail to really just be authentic. And they try too hard to tell me what they think I want to hear. What I really want to hear is, why do you do any of this? And what do you want to do? And how do you think you're going to do it? And there's not a right answer, right? But the best answer is always like, I've got an authentic reason for why I do what I want to. I do what I do, and there's an authentic reason for why I want to do what I want to do. And if I don't know what I want to do, that's fine, but at least I have some ideas for the type of work I might enjoy. So it's not always about impressing us with huge achievements, or it's not always about, trying to figure out who's bigger or faster or stronger or smarter or has better grades. And in fact, we would much rather pick a kid that has lower grades, but has shown that they can work through problems, they can overcome adversity, they're aware of who they are. That maybe life has thrown some challenges up in their way, but they figured out how to get around them or over them or through them. To me, that's always a much more impressive story about a young leader than somebody who maybe has never been challenged, right? And has always succeeded, or at least on paper, it seems like they've always succeeded. So I think a lot of times people are afraid to talk about maybe a failure or something about them that they think would make them stand out, like, okay, my family's too poor, or I come from a parent home, or we've moved around a lot, or my parents didn't go to college, whatever it is that people think marks them as not one of the bunch. But in reality, those are all the things that make us stronger. And that's what a lot of the admissions committees really want to hear about is, why are you? Exactly.
Yeah, and I can relate to that and understand wanting an authentic self, especially being a part of the Barrett community. Everyone's so unique. Everyone's such a high caliber person, but everyone comes from a different background. And I think you guys do a great job with that. And it's interesting to hear that you're asking for people to be vulnerable, especially at when you're an 18, 19-year-old going to college, you don't even necessarily know what you want to do, but now you're asked to write a letter. And it's interesting to say you don't necessarily need to show that you're the best. Right. It's show your experiences, show why you want to be there and your passion. It's making me think about my letter that I wrote. I talk about the little engine that could, and just I think I can.
That doesn't surprise me.
For you, Kyle, when we think about these high schoolers looking at college, or even middle schoolers looking at the next high school and the next stage, are there any exercises that they can do or that parents can do to help their kids start to think about how they're passionate or start building stories for themselves and think about how they can be vulnerable?
Yeah. Ooh, that's pretty complicated. That's my whole job, really. But I would really think that it's really best, no matter what, to go after whatever you're going to do the best at, right? I think too often people force themselves to go after goals that other people have chosen for them because they think it's going to be a great career or it's going to look great on a college application. You know, it's like, I don't really like playing the violin, but I know that Harvard loves violin players. Like, well, no, they like people that can show commitment to a certain task, right? That it could be anything. So, I mean, if you're a student and you want to major in art, I know your parents are going to freak out. That's fine, but you know, pick whatever you're going to work the hardest at. If you're going to be a C-level business major, what's the point, right? And so I think as you're thinking about your activities in high school, just whatever is, put your energy into whatever you're really going to excel at. And it doesn't really matter if it's important to other people or if other people think it's glamorous or things like that. If you want to volunteer through your church and helping refugees, put yourself into it. If you are really into robotics club, great. Get in it and stick in it for 4 years, work your way up into leadership. What really is a red flag for me a lot of times if a student has this an 18-year-old with a 2-page resume, because they've just been trying to do everything and spread themselves out and all these different experiences and that mythical well-rounded student. When in reality, we'd really like to see somebody that can show they can stick to something and follow it through to completion, and they do what they enjoy doing and they do it well. And I know that goes against a lot of common sense. So I don't have any specific advice except to say, really do follow your passions, follow your nose, right? Be around people you like to be around people that are going to make you better, and do things that you're going to excel at because it doesn't seem like you're working at it, right? Just because you love doing it. Somebody will eventually notice, right?
Yeah, it's the old adage, if you do what you love, you don't work a day of your life. And if you can really be passionate about that day in and day out, it's the perfect thing to do. Kyle, thank you so much for your time today. Is there anything that we can do and the community as a whole can do for you to help promote anything specifically or do anything for you?
Well, specifically with Ahwatukee, I know there's a lot of anxiety right now and trepidation, and all I can say is, hey, we got to be patient and we got to see what's going to happen. Our fall ball season would normally start in mid-October, and there's no reason at this point to think that it won't. But if it doesn't, the sun keeps rising and it keeps setting, and we will get up and we'll try again tomorrow. So I think the more support we can show each other and finding ways for our young players to continue to develop and grow in a safe and healthy way, I think that's exactly why we build this community. It's not to play lacrosse, it's to build young people, right? So that's a fancy way of saying just, let's not be nervous. I think everything's going to be okay. And not just for Ahwatukee, but for all of our different teams at all our different levels, right? I know I'd rather be on the field right now too. And we'll be on the field soon enough.
Well, we're excited for the season to start up and excited to be out there with the guys. It will come soon enough, and we'll make sure we're keeping everyone healthy. Thank you again, Kyle, for your time. You have a wonderful evening with your family, and I'll definitely be seeing you soon.
All right. Thanks a lot, Ryan. I appreciate the opportunity.